Hi folks, it's PP here with, as promised, the APT, second of the what I've labelled the 10-minute flies. In essence, this will take around about 10 minutes to show you today, but obviously if I wasn't talking, and once you get familiar with this pattern, you should be able to tie it well under 10 minutes, probably about 5 or 6 minutes or something like that. We've got I posted out the tiny ingredients the other day. We've got our curved hook in the vise, so let's get cracking. Catch on our thread, 5 or 6 turns. I'll just spin that anti-clockwise, take off the waste, bury that down. You can see the thread lying flat just now. Come down round the hook band. Obviously the abdomen, the best part of this fly, wants to be subsurface, which is part of its success. Back up a couple of turns, and now we introduce our peacock quill subs. I'm actually positioning this halfway. We're going to double this over. Nice little tip for beginners here is I've popped it round the back of the vise there, and I'm using the weight of the bobbin just to position it like that. You'll find that a very useful tip. Obviously now we can double that up, fold those over, and then back down. Just pop those out of the way. Want to introduce now or knock on our superfine dubbing. One slight taper to the abdomen here. Think of it more, rather than just tapering up, think of the profile of a wasp's body. We want the front end to gather into a waist, so we can just be a little bit mindful of that. I've got 3 inch of dubbing in there. Let's zoom out, you can see that, folks. Okay, come back in. What I'm going to do actually is just slide that dubbing up, bring these 2 fibres round the back of the shank, lie them adjacent. I'll try and angle this up so you can see it there, to the thread and the dubbing, and then just twist it round like that so it's incorporated into the dubbing and the body of the fly. So it's not a rib really. The idea is I want that nice iridescent look, and it's very, very strong, sturdy fly. Used to tie this, the fly's evolved a wee bit. Come up to a point when the thread's at rest, round about where the hook point is. Don't want to come any further. We've got to incorporate the wing, hackle, and then a tiny head on the fly, so just be mindful of that. Again, a nice tip for beginners, don't crowd the front end of the fly. Working backwards now, and just that build up in that central section there, then come into a tiny waist. You can see that kind of shape. Okay, we've got a little bit of excess fibres on there. Just untwist those, take off any excess dubbing, and this is one reason I tend not to use wax for dubbing, is that it doesn't allow you to free the dubbing quite as readily. Couple of turns there, let's free that dubbing. Turn in front of them fibres, feed in with your scissors and take a cut. Want to offer up the wing again. There's a couple of options here. I tie one with a poly yarn wing, and I use white poly yarn for under trees. Obviously the white stands out quite well. I use pink in where there's quite foamy water. CDC is good as well, and that's what I'm using today. I've got 2 plumes of CDC here, just align the tips. You'll see they're in an upward curving direction. They both correspond together, and I'm just going to dampen them off in the mouth just to draw them up. There we go, and then offer that up, the wing up. It's a little bit too long. It's better to be too long, because if you pull the fibres through, they don't get dragged all over the place. Just go back, wet that down, offer those up. A little bit too long there, you can see. Take 2 lazy turns, bring those fibres back up on top. Let's have a look at the length of the wing. That's too long. I'm aiming for, ideally, where the hook bend is, the wing wants to just end round about there. we're close now. In fact, that's just about spot on. 3 or 4 turns forward, feed in with your scissors and take a cut. Bury those butt ends, come back. Again, what I'll do, one more turn, is just sit the CDC up and come behind it there to cock that wing up. I've got one rogue fibre you can see poking out, in fact 2. There's one. I'll be quite honest, if it was time for myself, probably let that ride with the fly because we're popping a hackle on, but as ever when you're demonstrating you feel compelled to get it somewhere near. Introduce our hackle. All I'm going to do is just remove a few fibres for a bare stem to catch that in on my near side. Tip for beginners here, you'll see the hook eye is just sloping down a bit. I don't necessarily do this, but it's not bad when you're tying on curved hooks, is just crank that fly up a fraction in the vise, so now you've got a nice level plane. In essence, what we're trying to avoid is the thread running forward all the time. Probably need to come back a turn or 2 there. We want 3 turns of hackle. The beauty about using saddle hackles is the length, so you can actually twist these or turn them, wrap them using just your fingers rather than the hackle pliers. 3 turns to lock that in and a turn in front. You'll see that kicking forward now. Tip again, because I see so many beginners feeding like this. Obviously we're going to cut a lot of these fibres. Take the smallest point in your scissors you can there. Just feed in. We know we've got that look. I'm wobbling that about, and then just take a cut. Okay, that's perfect. Dampen your fingers and train those hackle fibres back. We're not actually going to go over the hackle fibres. I'm just squaring it off. You can see there, hopefully. Let's just move that camera slightly. This stage now, pop up to the eye, just so when our initial dubbing goes on it doesn't interfere with the hackle. We'll wind this back. Don't need a lot of fibres here, honestly. You'll be surprised how few. I've just got a minuscule amount of dubbing on there, you can see. Slide that up and just catch that in, and again I don't mind fibres radiating out. Work back, one more turn, and there we go. Okay, fly's complete. I'm tightening the thread now, spinning in a clockwise direction. The reason being the thread gathers up in a round profile. If it was flat now, it's a multi-fibred thread. Sometimes you get a burr at the hook eye and it can fray or split the thread, or sometimes half the thread wants to go over the eye. By gathering it up into a round profile we prevent doing that. Zoom out a little bit so you can see the whip finish. Again, as ever, I'm just finishing with my fingers. 3 or 4 turns, knocked on 4 there. For me it's 2 whip finishes. I like robust flies. These are fishing flies. As ever at this stage, into my varnish, little will come back in, so hopefully you can see that, folks. Bead of varnish on there, and this just gets drawn up into the whip finish to complete the fly. Clear that eye. All that remains now really is just to clip the underside of the hackle so the fly is a nice and flush hackle, so the fly sits down in the surface. And there you go, the all-purpose terrestrial. Hope you enjoyed that, folks. Let's just have a look at that hackle on the underside. You can see there, line flush. There's the fly, that nice iridescent body on there. Okay. Thanks very much for watching. As ever, comments to try and improve these would be appreciated. Take care, everybody, and stay safe. Bye for now.